But we've been warning about this for quite some month. This is why the next man up philosophy is so important and why we wanted to do the show with you, Steve, as a show of force, is that you take one out, 100 more appear. You take one out, 1,000 more appear. You take one out, 10,000 more appear. You take one out, we give more money. You take one out, we register more voters. You take one out, is that it only actually makes us stronger. You see, there are three different ways to analyze political movements or to categorize them. There are the fragile, the durable, and the anti-fragile.
In this one, we're going to have a look at a statement made by Charlie Kirk in an interview with Steve Bannon on his War Room show. And it's basically about what we saw in the introduction, next man up, and what happens after following an assassination, highlighting the three types of individuals when it comes to political conversation or categorization, which is the fragile, the durable, and the anti-fragile, which leads me to ask myself the question, which type of individual am I, and how will I proceed in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk? And when considering the state of our country today, I choose to be the anti-fragile. I choose to be one of the 100,000, 10,000 people that rise up in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And I hope you guys have made the same decision as we continue to push forward and move forward in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death. So let's have a look at this conversation where Charlie Kirk nearly predicts his own demise, and then let's go out and make him proud.
Our movement's ascended. They think if they can decapitate that and do it with, 50 negative pieces on Charlie Kirk and Turning Point's terrible. And trust me, Charlie Kirk's going to get an IRS investigation. They're already, I'm sure going after Charlie Kirk in every different aspect. If we act like we're intimidated, they're going to win. Here's why look, would I rather not spend the next 4 months there? Of course not. But it is what it is. And here's what I know. My team and our audience will step up to the plate. That's why next man up, because this is a 20-year project to take our country back. A lot of us are not going to be around in a couple of years. President Trump is 78 years old and had the burden of the world put on him, including being not just a company strip, but in a couple of weeks he's going to be sentenced to prison. Donald Trump, who gave us 4 years of peace and prosperity as president. This is how out of control it is.
Oh, what she's doing is she's trying to get out the visual and the idea of assassinating Donald Trump. This is where this is headed. I hope everyone understands, whether it be Julius Caesar, Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., Bobby Kennedy. Assassinations of major political leaders are nothing new. And yet we've kind of been immune to that for a couple of decades. We have been warning about this for months. Now, the very interesting question is, will they try to kill Joe Biden or Donald Trump? That's the interesting question. Which one right now is a bigger threat to them? And that I'll let the audience kind of ruminate on that question. But we've been warning about this for quite some month. This is why the next man up philosophy is so important and why we wanted to do the show with you, Steve, as a show of force, is that you take one out, 100 more appear. You take one out, 1,000 more appear. You take one out, 10,000 more appear. You take one out, we give more money. You take one out, we register more voters. You take one out, is that it only actually makes us stronger. You see, there are three different ways to analyze political movements or to categorize them. There are the fragile, the durable, and the anti-fragile. This is from Nassim Taleb, which is a phenomenal book. The fragile is the Mitt Romney Republican Party. That is the Paul Ryan Republican Party. You say one bad word about them, they collapse, they bend a knee, they surrender, and they're relentlessly apologizing and they're spineless. Then there is the durable. The durable is the best of the conservative movement prior to Donald Trump. That would be the conservative movement that always held on and they put up a good fight, had some fortitude, but didn't quite have enough to be able to endure the grind or the slog of the activist regime media. And then there is the anti-fragile. I encourage everyone to read the book Anti-Fragile. In the book Anti-Fragile, Nassim Taleb argues that there are unique people, organizations, movements, restaurants, companies that actually get stronger the more pressure and opposition that is applied upon them. And when you find an anti-fragile movement, that their life force is actually what ends up being opposition. That is Donald Trump. Has anyone noticed that Donald Trump looks younger, stronger, more full of life and vitality after the indictments than before the indictments? It gives him purpose, reason of being. It gives him a telos, as the Greekers would say, or a teleological purpose for existence. This movement that we are part of right now, that historians will write about for the next 1,000 years. Let me say that again. This movement that you are part of will be written about for the next millennia. People do not remember the many movements from 400 or 500 years ago. Maybe a little bit here, English Revolution or whatever. This movement will be written about for 1,000 years. And when the history books are written, it will befuddle historians 600, 700, 800 years from now. Why is it that the people that had so much to lose, the Steve Bannons, the Peter Navarros, the Donald Trumps, they kept on doubling and tripling down? Because full of fortitude and that resolute spirit, we have the chance to influence the arc of history, as the left-winger Hegelians would always say. The arc of history always bends towards justice. How about this? The arc of history will bend back towards citizen-led government, not subjects, not slaves. And we will use this dark moment as they cart you off tomorrow, Steve, and put you in handcuffs, and we say goodbye for 123 days. For 123 days, I will work harder than I ever have my entire life. This is repulsive. This is disgusting. It is outrageous. And it is a call to action for every citizen watching right now to do more. You are not doing enough. I am not doing enough, because one of our on-field commanders is getting taken off for 123 days. What are we going to do about it?
What are we going to do about it? That is the question now that Charlie Kirk is gone. We can either be the fragile, the durable, or the anti-fragile. It's a choice. And which one of those are you and I going to choose to be? For me, I choose to be the anti-fragile, the next man up. You know, people will ask, who will be the next Charlie Kirk? And just like this post here says, it's you. Read the Bible, pray, go to church, love your family. If you can, have one more child. Speak boldly for Christ. Mentor. Build something. Live the way Charlie Kirk did. Boldly, bravely, and to God's glory. I want to share with you something that came across my feed that is a quote and audio from Malcolm X that I believe is something that we should all keep in mind.
There are many whites who are trying to solve the problem, but you never see them going under the label of liberals. That white person that you see calling himself a liberal is the most dangerous thing in the entire Western Hemisphere. He's the most deceitful. He's like a fox. And a fox is always more dangerous in the forest than the wolf. You can see the wolf coming. You know what he's up to. But the fox will fool you. He comes at you with his mouth shaped in such a way that even though you see his teeth, you think he's smiling, taking for a friend.
He also said, if you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Reminds me a lot of today's current mainstream media, who they uplift, who they oppress, who they attack. We've gotten to the point in our country where the right, the America First individuals who actually truly love this country and the people in it and believe in the Constitution have been backed into the corner. And I've heard it said that this assassination of Charlie Kirk is the shot heard around the world of our lifetime. And I can't think of any better way to express it. The very people who hate our country, who hate our freedom, have taken away somebody who was doing this the right way. Charlie Kirk was having the conversations with the people that hate him, trying to change their minds, coming from a good and wholesome perspective. And the evil that opposes him made the decision to kill him, to assassinate him, rather than continue to have those conversations, because they knew that they were losing the battle. And so they are now resorting to assassination attempts on our president, Donald Trump. They assassinated Charlie Kirk. They locked up the J6ers, who did very minimal compared to what we witnessed in the wake of the George Floyd death, where the left, the Antifas, the BLM types were burning down cities, killing people who are wearing a MAGA hat, attacking people. We've seen the Democrat leaders like Maxine Waters tell her followers, her constituents, anyone who's willing to listen,
I am going to spend some time with the criminal justice system, with the justice system, asking them, tell us what's going on with the domestic terrorists. Are they preparing a civil war against us? Should we be concerned about our safety? What is he doing with this divisive language? It is dangerous, and we're going to have to make sure that we understand that we're not at risk with this man talking in the way that he's doing. I will go and take Trump out tonight. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere. If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet. What does Trump expect? Oh, I believe he expects violence. I believe he expects confrontation. I believe he's working toward a civil war. Words mean nothing. Actions mean everything. Watch this. Watch it very closely. Ask a lot of questions. Focus those cameras on everything that's going on, because this president is trying to lead us into what could be called a civil war.
And the only way that I can really sum this up is that it's bigger than Republican versus Democrat, left versus right, white versus black, etc., etc., American versus non-American. It's simply the age-old battle of good versus evil. And which side are you going to choose to be on? Which side are you on? Which God do you work for? For me, it's Jesus, the one true living God. And I pray that it is the same for you. And with that, I just want to say, may God bless and bring peace to Charlie Kirk's wife and children and his family and all the people that he's affected in his work. And it's time for the next man up. And like Charlie Kirk said, when one falls, hundreds or thousands may rise in his place. And that's what I hope, that's what I pray happens in this time where we need a revival, a revolution, a solution, and healing to the damage that has been done and caused by the radical, terroristic Democrat Party. And my final message is, in the end, God's people will unify and win. So if you enjoyed this video, I hope you hit that like button, share it, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. And finally, I'll remind you or let you know if you're here for the first time that you can catch me live every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday on this channel with the Jar Openers podcast. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I really hope to see you there.